Okay, I'm with Bad Religion, Greg and Jay, and this is their at least 9th album. It's called The Gray Race. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
So you've been playing music for a long time now, and you've influenced a lot of bands. And, like, what was it that got you playing music to begin with, and is that impetus what drives you to do it today?
Probably it's a little different. I mean, when we started, it was a way to get away from all the oppression from our peers at school. Mm-hmm. The rock and roll subculture of the late 70s and early 80s, mm-hmm. which was very intolerant to any kind of alternative sound to their, anything that might have posed a threat to their way of life. Mm-hmm. And I know it sounds dramatic, but it really was. Yeah. I mean, we had to walk around school afraid of getting beat up, mm-hmm. which is pretty absurd if you think about it today. Yeah. So we started collecting in my garage, actually, my mom's garage, and playing music as a way of just having the time, having something to do after school. But the music, when you play music. But the music wasn't about getting high or dressing cool. It was about real issues. It was about that oppression that I was talking mm-hmm. about. And so it had some substance. Yeah. And it was actually had substance.
You didn't start a band to get girls.
No. No, it was more of a, maybe a social therapy. Yeah. Yeah. And it was a fun way to talk about with each other and to share experiences with each other, because mm-hmm. it was put to a pretty cool, fast, aggressive beat. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And today there's still some of that. It was, you know, we have, our music today still is very much focused on society's ills, mm-hmm. and those are things that affect us throughout life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're lucky in that respect. Well,
with this album, it's almost got like an epic rock opera quality. It's very cohesive from beginning to end. And there's also, what's interesting to me is that you always have your vocals high in the mix. You include lyric sheets. It seems important to hear what's being said. And why do you write about your social concerns?
You know, there's so many bands, first of all. And I think the only way to really set your band apart is by the content and the ideas that you're espousing. Mm-hmm. And so that motivates me lyrically, mm-hmm. To try to say something that other people aren't saying. Mm-hmm. So my assumption is The Gray Race is not about extraterrestrials. Hey, very good. What is it? What is The Gray Race? It's you know, a symbol of the human race. Yeah. That's why the cover, there are 10 different covers. Yeah. Each the covers show a different element of the human race, mm-hmm. a different subset of the human race. Mm-hmm. And hey, there it is. Isn't that nice? And I must say that it's very hard to get in the case once you've gone like this. Yes. I thought I spent a long time going, how does this fit? It's the Rubik's CD puzzle. But it refers mostly to our ability as humans to see shades of gray, to see conceptual shades of gray. Mm-hmm. Whereas all other animals on the planet really can only see conceptually in terms of black and white. An animal knows if it's time to go to sleep, or it's time to run away, or it's time to fight. Very sharply defined behaviors. Mm-hmm. Whereas humans have this unique ability to distinguish and discern between conceptual endpoints, mm-hmm. and come up with other ways of behaving. Mm-hmm. But ironically, we don't behave in that manner because of the world that we build for ourselves, mm-hmm. which is very, the world we build for ourselves is very intolerant of tapping into the shades of gray. Mm-hmm. It's very uncompassionate, and it doesn't really promote self-consciousness. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was watching the show last night on Philip Glass, and he was saying that he believes that change comes from the free flow of ideas, and that violence sort of comes down when violence is an act of trying to, like, not change things. It's trying to keep things sort of the same and sort of
harness something.
Well, that's the fear, like he was talking about in the high school. It's that fear of change. Just visually, there was the fear of change, and that wasn't allowable. And that's the same for a lot of people don't want to see advances or changes. They want to see things stay the same. So it's easier to oppress people that are free thinkers than allow them to espouse their views to other people who might agree with them.
Yeah. Well, have you got your PhD yet in biology, or are you still working toward that?
There's only two things that really annoy me. One is when people say all bad religion songs sound the same. And the second one is people saying, "Are you done yet?"
Yeah.
But that's okay.
But
I understand. I mean, it's okay.
You're still in progress.
If I was finished, it wouldn't annoy me so much. But
Just that close.
I mean, the fact is, I'm traveling so much.
Top notch.
But you're doing like a dissertation on the evolution of vertebrates.
Yeah.
And but how what we've been talking about, like the way that our strange, violent ways of being human, how does that fit into evolution? Is that like a survival instinct, or is it like, are we self-destructing for, is that part of our evolution?
That's a tough question to answer. The fact is, studying paleontology and the vertebrate evolution gives me really good perspective on understanding our own species. And but understanding the behavior of our species is very difficult, because it's the only time in Earth history that we've had organisms that can think consciously. And I think consciousness is what drives us to be self-motivated and selfish. And I think that ultimately is the problem with, I mean, that's what's driving us towards extinction, is our selfish ways. And ironically, we have this ability to see shades of gray, to be understanding, to be compassionate, but we don't tap into it because the power of being selfish overwhelms us.
Is it because we're driven for goals and materialism, or?
It's tough to say.
Yeah.
The fact that you are able to recognize yourself automatically makes you selfish, though. I mean, you know what's best for you. And it takes a very unique individual to say, hey, I know what's best for me, but I'm going to recognize that it's bad for my fellow conspecific.
Well, how do you find, like, through all this stuff...
Or for my friend, how's that?
For all my pals.
I don't want to be too academic.
You're an egghead, eh?
Yeah, fascinating.
But how do you find a place in the world for yourself? Like, you just moved to Bowen Island, hey?
Yep.
On the West Coast.
Yep.
So you guys are all sort of, you come together, you're living in separate areas, you come together to make music, and then you tour. Is this a good place for you? Like, in all this chaos of the world, you've found a good situation for yourselves, obviously.
I think so. I mean, you kind of, within the band framework, we said, okay, well, a band is something that you can basically do from anywhere. You don't have to be from the same street, the same neighborhood, the same city. You figure out that eventually, well, where we are, as long as you're near an airport and you have a telephone and a fax machine, you're in pretty good shape.
Do you like sing stuff to each other over the phone?
You're thinking of that AT&T commercial.
No, I'm not.
It doesn't work. We've tried it. Soon we'll be downloading.
Are you computer guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Did you use computers on this album?
No. No, look, I don't think computers have any, I mean, it's got a long way to go before it can replace the quality of sound you can get from regular analog tape. So we did use computers. We mastered on that Macintosh. Remember? Yeah, but that's a standard procedure. I mean, you've got to turn it into digital information
in order to master it.
CDs.
But it was on a giant Macintosh. It was huge.
Yeah, big.
The fact is, it's still pretty traditional. I have a home recording studio where the guys come once in a while and work on songs. We send out demos to each other. We share ideas that way. It's pretty traditional.
Well, why did you pick Rick Ocasek to produce, or he co-produced?
Well, at first it seemed crazy, which is always a good idea to do it. You know, when something seems absolutely absurd, you immediately jump towards that. Second was that he was a singer-songwriter and an active participant in a band that had done many albums, so he understood what it's like to be on the other side of the glass. his description of our production on all the previous albums was exactly what mine was, so we all had a very common theme, and it showed me that he'd listened to our previous material. In all, it seemed like he was the right guy, and I think he really was.
More importantly for me was that he understood the music, which was surprising, actually. He was making some very lucid comments about the songs themselves.
And well, hey, that's pretty clever.
Yeah, and I thought, you know, it didn't seem... I understand that he's a great pop songwriter, but I didn't think it would apply. And indeed, a lot of the... He helped us to recognize that a lot of our songs, even our older songs, which he spent a lot of time analyzing, had regular pop song
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, you're playing tonight in Toronto. Do you know which venue you're playing at?
RPM Warehouse.
RPM Warehouse. Any other Canadian dates? Vancouver?
Last night.
Are you playing Vancouver?
Guys, come on down last night.
Last night in Vancouver?
No, in Montreal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, last night we were in Vancouver. We walked all the way here.
You ran.
We were jamming.
Okay, so let's take a look at your video. A walk. Thanks, guys, for having a coffee and sitting down and talking.
Thank you. Let's go for a walk.